The benevolently named Public Good Projects, PGP, describes itself as a public health nonprofit with focus on, quote, large-scale media monitoring programs, social and behavior change interventions. And a new report is now shedding more light of how the system of censorship and deplatforming of COVID vaccine skeptics worked at the height of the pandemic, including the intricate ties between a number of actors, such as the PGP and their partners. One of them is the CDC nonprofit called the CDC Foundation. The CDC itself was established by Congress. Other partners include the FDA, Kaiser Permanente, Rockefeller, and Humana, as per the Tennessee Department of Health, which cites these as part of the bio of the PGP CEO, Dr. Joe Smizer. And the Public Goods Project in the past received funding not from lobbyists for just any corporate players, but those strongly interested in stomping out any vaccine hesitancy, namely vaccine manufacturers like Pfizer and Moderna, to add another ingredient into this dish that will appear unsavory to many. The New York City's Health Department Misinformation Response Unit was also among those the PGP has in its portfolio of collaborations. The unit was set up to monitor what it would determine to be dangerous misinformation posted on social media, non-U.S. sites, and non-English media in the U.S. This so-called misinformation mostly had to do with COVID vaccination. The department was determined to drive vaccination rates up by spreading its word, and in this gathered over 100 partners whose job was to craft positive messaging around the controversial subject. Their work here also included sending Twitter, on a weekly basis, lists of posts slated for censorship. In an article published by the NEJM Catalyst Journal, those behind the effort are now assessing the unit's work as successful, what with it being able to rapidly identify messages deemed as containing inaccurate information about the virus, vaccines, treatment, etc. And although admitting that vaccine hesitancy remains high around the world even 2 years after the vaccines were first introduced, and this is something attributed to disinformation and misinformation, the New York City Health Department thinks that it did well in getting its own narrative out, particularly in traditional media. However, it needed help on the internet, and so in 2021, the NYC Health Commissioner penned a letter to the largest social networks asking them to engage in, quote, broader efforts to curtail deliberate disinformation, particularly from the most notorious spreaders of disinformation and from non-English language sources. This is also where the Public Good Projects came in, to enlist what it calls social media micro-influencers to spread pro-vaccine messages and train others to come up with campaigns. The email Dave A. Chokshi, New York City Health Commissioner, addressed to then Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, with the subject line reading, Vaccine Misinformation, urges the pair to, quote, take immediate action to stop the spread of fraudulent and inaccurate information about COVID-19 vaccines on their platforms. Chokshi wanted this action to be, quote, effective and vigorous, and asserted that misinformation on these sites, as understood by the city's health department, was costing New Yorkers their lives. Ignoring the First Amendment, the New York Health Commissioner then urged Twitter and Facebook to do the following.
Consistently and promptly remove all misinformation regarding COVID-19 vaccines from your platforms and ban any user that repeatedly posts misinformation, including the Dirty Dozen. Redesign the algorithms used by your platforms to avoid amplifying misinformation, particularly among non-English languages. Provide greater transparency to your data to allow health departments to better identify, track, and understand the spread of misinformation and amplify messaging from trusted public health experts and local partners.
But things get more granular from there. The PGP operates an initiative called Shots Heard, while another one with a similar mission is called Team Halo and is the brainchild of the United Nations Verified Initiative and the Vaccine Confidence Project. An Epoch Times report details how in 2021 Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, a doctor who completed her residency at Stanford, was one of those caught in their crosshairs online. Bowden's crime was posting content on Twitter and TikTok, skeptical of the vaccine, and at the same time positive of the use of ivermectin in COVID treatment. This drew the attention and the ire of influencers on these platforms and YouTube, such as Zachary Rubin and Christina Kim, doctors who were members of Team Halo. Bowden was called problematic in their posts, and they asked for her license to be revoked. Only days after, In November 2021, Bowden learned from a Houston Chronicle journalist, rather than from the hospital itself, that she was getting suspended from Houston Methodist. Over the following months, Bowden's life was thrown into chaos as multiple social media influencers targeted her. However, the most dogged was a pharmacist named Savannah, who posts on Twitter, the article continued, and Savannah, who is a member of Shots Heard and posts to over 1 million followers, even managed to accuse Bowden of xenophobia and racism because she was talking about anti-ivermectin pharmacists, many of whom happened to be Asian. The result was TikTok banning Bowden and YouTube suspending her, while suspected fake patients left negative reviews. And while the CDC Foundation was funding projects to target vaccine skeptics online, the CDC itself was also working overtime to suppress speech. Emails between an employee at the CDC and Twitter have revealed that at least one CDC staff member and the U.S. Census Bureau had access to Twitter's dedicated partner support portal, which allowed approved government partners to flag content to Twitter for censorship. The emails were released by the nonprofit organization America First Legal and show Twitter enrolling a CDC employee into this portal through their personal account in May 2021. On May 10, 2021, the CDC's Carol Crawford sent Twitter employee Todd O'Boyle a list of example posts highlighting, quote, 2 issues that we, the CDC, are seeing a great deal of misinfo about. O'Boyle responded by saying that enrolling in Twitter's partner support portal is the best way for Crawford to get posts like this reviewed in the future. Crawford asked O'Boyle if she could enroll in the portal with her personal Twitter account. And on May 27, 2021, O'Boyle confirmed that Crawford had been enrolled in the portal. In other emails, Crawford asked O'Boyle whether the federal government could flag, quote, COVID misinformation on the portal using the existing census.gov accounts that have access, and questioned how to flag misinformation via the portal. The CDC's close ties to PGP are just one of the ways this government health agency targets those who challenge it. The CDC has provided millions of dollars in funding to other groups that tackle vaccine misinformation. And it has even been given the power to police and flag content on major social media platforms. Despite being bound by the First Amendment and prohibited from censoring speech, these connections to tech platforms and other groups allow the CDC to wield significant influence over the speech of Americans, directly or indirectly. Thank you for watching. If you support free speech, freedom from surveillance, and digital civil liberties, join Reclaim the Net. Become a supporter by going to reclaimthenet.org and sign up now.